welcome to this conversation. I am thrilled to have with us Pratima Reddy, who is the Managing Director of Merck Healthcare India. And we have her with us to share her journey, the insights on leadership, and her vision about future leadership, women leadership. And I am so happy to have you here, Pratima.
My pleasure as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us and out of your busy schedule being here. And we get started right away.
Sure.
And every time I meet a leader like you, I always like to start by asking about that turning point, because we obviously just don't start out as a leader. So please tell us something about your turning point in your career where you felt that I can be the leader, I'm the leader.
Okay, so let me firstly, once again, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to join you and everyone else who's listening. Let me step back a little bit and give you a bit of reflection about my career trajectory, right? Before I answer your question. So I started my career in consulting actually. So I was with Accenture Consulting for about 8 years, and I have now been with Merck for about 12 years. So I joined Merck back in 2013 in a sort of strategy kind of a role, working in the global organization. At some point, somebody actually took a risk on me, I will say, and offered me the chance to lead the oncology business in India. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about where I was until then, I had largely spent time in, on global projects, working in strategy, working as an individual contributor for the most parts, of course, working with very, very senior stakeholders, but never formal reporting lines and so on, beyond maybe a couple of people here and there, right? So, firstly, to have that opportunity at that point in time, on a rookie like me, and someone taking a chance on a rookie like me to offer you a chance to lead a team of 35 people. Okay, it was a big risk and a big chance and an opportunity for me as well to really have a step jump into where my career would have headed into what it could potentially be. Right, and of course I'm extremely grateful to have had that chance, and I did take a risk on myself as well, because it would have been one of those things that if it didn't work out, you don't know what happens next. And I joined the oncology team in India as the business unit head. So overnight I went from someone who also came from a more consumer health kind of background, so and to oncology. So if you also understand pharma a little bit, consumer health is at one end of the spectrum. I will say oncology is at the other end of the spectrum, right? So one is more about consumer oriented selling, retail, pharmacies, etc. And retail strategies are important. Whereas when it comes to oncology, a lot of emphasis is obviously on the scientific selling and understanding your data, working with very, very senior KOLs and thought leaders in terms of shaping the therapy dynamics, etc. So very, very different in terms of dynamics. I was setting up myself to lead a team of people who are seasoned in doing this, right? So you can imagine the entire situation, going from having very little formal authority to having a team of seasoned professionals who know how to do their job, who probably are wondering, why is this person now our leader and taking up this role? It was a gamble for sure. But I think what I did bring to the table at that point in time, and which is why someone took the chance on me, was what we needed at that point for that business. We needed to sort of also reflect on how we can continue to maximize patient access. There was an opportunity in front of us. We wanted to amplify the growth. We wanted to see what we needed to do in India from an access strategy perspective. We wanted to bring a certain kind of inclusive energy within the team and motivate them to go above and beyond, etc. So there were some of these elements that obviously were things that someone thought that I can bring to the table. So, so I wanted to kind of share this background to answer your question about what was the turning point, right? So, of course, I mean, it was in the beginning a very difficult personal, you can imagine the state of mind when you're entering a situation like this. You have things around imposter syndrome. You wonder whether you'll be able to do it. You not only have to prove yourself to the world in terms of being a good leader, being able to deliver the result, but also for yourself, right? Have I taken the right chance, etc. it worked out, right? I think we were able to, of course, deliver the results that we needed to deliver. We really created a very strong energy within the team. Even today, and I'm talking about something that happened back in 2018, right? So even today, I'm very, very well connected with the team. Of course, I had a chance to come back and lead them in a different role recently, but that bond remains strong. They still have a lot of respect and trust in me, and so a lot of these things happened around the time we took a business that was growing for a very, very low to mid single digit growth to double digit growth. We redefined the access strategy, so we did a lot of good things. And so for me, really, that experience was a turning point for myself in my reflection of, that I do have that I can do this. I have, if given a chance, I have the ability to step out of my comfort zone, take on a challenge, bring in a fresh perspective and take people along with me. And of course, there were a lot of learnings that happened along the way in terms of how you work together with the team, bring them along, build a trust-based, respect-based relationship, but always focused on impact and how you can drive the right narrative for the organization, etc. So that would be my reflection. And I think since then, I have been really grateful that at Merck I have had many such opportunities to test myself a little bit, step out of my comfort zone and try out new things. So whether it was the role after this, so this was oncology. So I had done consumer health, I had done oncology, and then that role after this was a APAC role where again a chance to work with different markets, different cultures. So, while it's Asia, Asia is the most heterogeneous kind of continent that you have, So, I mean, an Indian culture is very, very different from the Southeast Asian culture, could be very different from some of the others and so on. So, bringing all of those, working with people from these different cultures, again, now this was without any formal authority, and still driving the growth and the narrative that we wanted to shape for that organization. And then coming back to India, of course, as a MD and country speaker. So there have been like many opportunities where I felt like when I took a chance on myself, I've been able to demonstrate, and that has built my confidence in myself. But without question, the turning point and the most important gamble, if I may use the word, I took on myself, and the organization took on me for sure, and the leaders involved at that point took on me was the oncology piece. Yeah,
and definitely that was such a good decision made back then by them and you took on the challenge, and now you are the first MD, women MD of Merck Healthcare India.
Yes.
And how has that journey been? And you also mentioned advancing the growth. You mentioned oncology. Then there's also the cardio-metabolic care. That all of these is a lot for us, the laymen. And how did it? What did it mean for you as the first MD of?
Yeah, so I mean, two parts to your question, I think. So I think reflecting on the coming back as a woman MD in a country which is still largely patriarchal, I will say, right? Of course, I mean,
I didn't want to use that term, but
yeah,
yes,
but it
absolutely.
is true, and I mean, we have to acknowledge it for what it is. Absolutely. Of course, it's progressing, and we are seeing more and more women leaders out there. But there is still a journey for us to have, and what that also means is that when you come back in a leadership position in a country like of this nature, a lot of your leadership team members, a lot of your teams have never really worked with a woman in the past, right? Their reporting lines in the past have always been to the other gender, right? Yes. So they are also not 100% clear about what your style is going to be, right? So I think I did have a bit of they did have a bit of a glimpse into my personality because I had worked with the oncology team in the past, etc. But I think especially with my leadership team, actually I had never really worked very closely, barring a couple of them. And I mean, of course, for them it was a big change. I have had some of my very senior leaders coming up to me and saying that, you're the first woman we are reporting to, and so on. So, and I think it's also important to understand, maybe I don't know if you relate to this as well. As women, when we grow up in India, there is a certain value system and a certain approach with which you are subconsciously groomed to operate, you know. So there is a bit of this looking up to somebody if he's a male leader versus, and you're not really that conversant to how do you present yourself to a woman leader, etc. So there was all of that. But I think again, reflecting back on my entire journey, I feel like I have always been the woman, or doing something which was where I was probably a unique case. So even when I was in Accenture, when I joined Accenture, I was the only woman in that batch of 20 people that they hired from campus at that point in time. I used to joke to my then HR head that I was your diversity quota. You hired me for diversity to meet your diversity targets. Of course, subsequently it changed because a lot more women started doing their MBAs from the top B schools, and of course the intake subsequently increased. But when I joined, it was not so common. There were so many project teams in which I was probably the only lady in the team, etc. So I was probably used to doing that.
And you're comfortable doing that? You were?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think much about it. Maybe, I thank my family that they never put any pressure of being a girl or a woman on me. Maybe all of that has subconsciously helped as well. That foundation was strong. And and then I think what you learn to do over time, also because I was working with very senior leaders in my previous roles, when I was in the global role in consumer health or in Accenture, you as a rookie or as a young person, you're in a position where you have access to senior leaders, how they work, how they understand it. Inherently, I started building in maybe some attributes within myself, or maybe that is also how I was always. So trust, operating from a position of trust, being authentic, giving the experience that you see on the other side the right level of respect, but at the same time, of course, not allowing that to overpower you. So being nice without being somebody who can be a pushover is something that you learn to operate over time. And I think I built that within myself over time, because I was doing many of these projects, etc., even before I became the GM, right, where I had to get work done within a certain mold. And I think over time, these values have what has helped me. So yeah, the journey may not have been that straightforward, but it wasn't that difficult also, I have to be honest. I was also, I got a team as well which was very open-minded, accepting when they saw that I'm bringing, that I'm not trying to overstep what they are doing, but bringing additional value to the table, which is then probably enhancing the overall piece. I saw that there was very quick acceptance. And then, I also believe that as women, we bring a certain level of energy to the table. So, bringing the whole team together, driving engagement. Also, all the other women leaders that we had within the team, I felt like, when they had a woman MD, they as well felt empowered. And so collectively, I think we brought a lot of positive, we have been bringing a lot of positive energy to the table. And I think all of that has helped in a way, right? So that's my answer to the question around the woman MD part. Long answer, you can edit it later.
We definitely wanted to hear this, because it is so important to know that, of course, we have our values and our energy, and we try as best as possible to be comfortable in that situation. And it also helps when everybody else is supportive, and you said that correctly.
Yeah, so I think you have to be clear about what is the value that you bring to the table and what is it that the others. If I try to prove that I am better than X, so that's not what we have. So collectively, we have to be clear about the role that person X plays and person Y plays, and where is it that I can add additional value. So I think that is something that I've been very clear about, that what do I have to do here, in my role, and what is it that someone else needs to do. They need to lift themselves up to deliver on their role. I need to lift myself up to deliver on my role. And if we do that well, if that communication is clear, there is trust, we are both and we are not thinking, we are thinking about raising the bar always, you will always have a superlative product coming up. And which brings me to the second part of your question about, these different franchises. So firstly, I think you cannot today be in a more exciting market than India. There is just, you look around you, there is so much energy, vibrancy, and also positive, momentum that you are seeing with all the reforms that have happened in the last 10 years, etc. There is great growth happening. So, India as a country, and when you are working in India, there is a natural energy that is there to the entire team. You have a lot of young plus experience, good blend of that, always on the ground. Teams are bigger in size, and so on and so forth. So there is a certain vibrancy that you have, and I think my natural personality sort of blended it very well into that energy as well, I will say. And then, like, to the point that I was making earlier, thinking from a place of where are the opportunities where I can drive impact, we were collectively able to find really good ways in doing that. So 100% when you are working in healthcare, eventually patients are at the core of everything that you do, right? So when you think in terms of India and you think in terms of patients, today there are many, the patients are immense. The patients who could benefit from your treatment are immense, right? There is a huge number of there is a large unmet need that is there out there, and with whatever we have, probably we are not able to maximize the patient benefit that we can drive, is what I reflected when I came into the role. And we started thinking about collectively with the teams on what could be the right strategies for us to maximize our reach so that more and more patients are able to take benefit from that. So when you think from that place, you're automatically thinking more holistically. You're looking at the entire patient funnel. You are identifying where are the barriers, is the right level of public-private partnerships that you need to drive to address the access barriers. Is that the area you need to solve, and what do you do there? Is affordability a challenge and you need to solve for that, and what is it that you could do there, right? So is it about capacity and capability building with your HCPs? Is that an area to address? You do that. So you think strategically, you think holistically, you think from the perspective of patients, you identify the barriers, and that's what we did. So for oncology, we were able to, of course, the team had already started work in the last 4-5 years on access. We were able to amplify that further. We continue to drive our access strategy. For CMNE, we recognize that there is immense potential if we are able to go deeper and wider. So we have put in place a deeper, wider strategy, and the team is doing fabulously on that, driving double-digit growth. Even for we have a business in IVF as well. We are the market leaders there for that business as well, partnering with the top clinic chains, understanding their pain points, and bringing the right value proposition to the table is what we do. So I think at a very high level, that is how we did. But eventually, it is about the patients and how you can benefit them. So and then what is it that we are doing in today? What is the value that the team can add? And then with all of the experience that I bring to the table, what are the new ideas that I could bring? That's what we did.
The moment you say that the patients are the focus at the end of the day with everything, all the business that we do, the focus is on them. It just immediately brings the thought of service and social good, and that I think is a big driving force.
Without question, and that is in fact how we operate within Merck. 100% patient are at the core of everything we do, and that is also a part of our vision and our mantra.
That's so beautiful. And coming to the next question that I had in mind, I didn't start with that because it wouldn't be nice to start with that. But coming to this one is a little personal as well, but I'm sure many of our listeners will also be benefited with that. Since I have this opportunity of talking to you who has actually mentored so many women leaders along the line. So for people like me, for women like me and others who are just starting out with their leadership roles, what do you think works and what doesn't work?
Good question. No, and I think of course it's a journey. I'm not an expert. I am as well learning, and everyone I think first, so 2 or 3 things if I have to reflect, right? So I think number one, we have to when I think about women, or not even, in general, when I think about potential, it is not from a place of titles. It is in terms of the attributes that the person presents, right? So for me, when I am looking at my entire organization, and I feel there could be folks who have a longer runway and worth investing in, are the people who are raising their hands to go above and beyond, signing up for stretch assignments, taking a lot of accountability and ownership, operating with integrity, of course, but looking to always raise the bar, doing above and beyond. So to me, I think irrespective of whether you're a male or a female, if you want to really add value and see, want to have a long runway, number one, work on this, that you need to be able to, because that is the sort of person that I will take a risk on if I have to ever nurture and if I have to support someone in their career journey. So I think building the right having the right attributes which will take you forward, just not doing what is supposed to be your role, but being willing to stick your neck out and go the extra mile is important. The second piece is and then, of course, like I said, not thinking in terms of titles, but thinking in terms of development. That is the second important advice that I will give people, right? So a lot of times, and maybe it's a cultural thing, right? We think in terms of, okay, today I'm a manager, tomorrow I'm a senior manager, I'm at role level X, I want to go to role level Y, right? It's my personal reflection as well, and I've seen that happen. Like a lot of roles that I did were parallel roles. There have been roles where I've also gone down and gone up, etc. It doesn't matter. To me, always it is about what will I learn and gain at the end of this. So if anything that is ever offered to me as an opportunity, if I see the potential that it's going to give me something that I feel is missing or can be enhanced, so, and it can be anything, right? Okay, I have never worked in a certain therapy area when it comes to, let's say, healthcare. That's something new to learn. It could be that, I have never managed a team, or I have always managed a team, but I have never worked without so what is the value that a certain position will add to me? If we start thinking in that manner, number one, your opportunities for your career growth automatically expand. Yeah, because then you're not thinking in terms of today I'm in comms and tomorrow I want to become the head of comms and then I want to be the whatever, so automatically you're not thinking in a very narrow manner, you're thinking broadly. So I would encourage people to do that, right? I would encourage people to of course, like I said, think in terms of attributes, what is that extra piece that I can bring to the table, etc., and so on. And I would say be patient always because a lot of times, and that this again is a cultural thing, and I also struggle with that, is that we live in a country of 1.4 billion people, so there is always someone. Even when you step out of your house, if you're calling for a auto or a cab, there are 10 people who will jump into, or the train or whatever else, metro. So naturally we are very agile, we are very quick, but that also makes us a bit impatient, and sometimes we need to build that patience in ourselves. That's the piece. And above everything, specifically to women, I will say that I think a lot of battles that we have, or let's say a lot of barriers that we have, are internal to us. Yeah, so I think I can't speak for men, but I know women are like that. I think I can say that with a high level of confidence. We overthink. Yeah, we under position ourselves. We are always second guessing ourselves. Is this right? Every expression that someone gave, etc. Like there is that tendency.
Making too much out of nothing, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that tends to happen a lot. Maybe that is how it's nature, it's nurture, whatever it is. So the biggest piece of effort that we have to take is on ourselves, so, and over time, I think, of course, as you grow older, you learn to do that a little bit better, but the earlier you start in your journey, you will see that it will build your confidence much more. You're able to work on yourself faster, and then a lot of the anxiety and all the things that happen, let's say below the surface, that we struggle with, will go away. So that's the last advice I will give, that work on yourself. One should have more faith, not to take everything seriously, not to overthink. I know it's easier said than done, but if one is able to work on that, a lot of the pieces will fall in place better, because it will reflect in how you're presenting yourself as well, right? Don't take things too seriously also, and have a good work-life balance. It's not. I believe that's also important. It's not just A or B, but try to integrate the two to the best possible extent, and have a balance. Also, invest in your personal life and relationships as much as you can. And there's so many things.
This is so beautiful. I so feel that even after the recording's over, I so want to hear more about it, because the internal journey is something that we have been, like, I think at the present times, we're working on it even more, the internal growth, the personal growth, and it's, like you said, it's so important to look within.
Yeah, no, and I think more women should talk to each other more, because I think it's you can say collectively it's a common phenomena amongst women. We tend to overthink, and the more we speak to each other, we share, and we realize that, oh, it's not me alone, this person is doing this as well. So I mean, I know we close the question, but I want to one of the turning points to me to actually understand this was I read this book by Sheryl Sandberg many years back, Lean In. She also has a Lean In network, and if you read the book Lean In, of course she's Sheryl Sandberg, she is a super accomplished woman on the board of Facebook, etc. And you would think, she brings with a lot of confidence and, no imposter syndrome, no overthinking. But the way she has described her journey and through in corporate America as well, you will see there are many lessons there, and you're like, okay, I also go through this, etc. So that was a very strong reflection for me in my personal journey, that if somebody like Sheryl Sandberg can also go through these aspects, then maybe it is something I need to learn to deal with better for myself. So I would recommend that folks should read this book. I found that extremely enriching for sure.
That's something that goes onto my list for sure.
You must.
I think sometimes we are very scared to show our vulnerable side, and that shouldn't be the case.
Yes,
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And going to the next question that I have in mind is about IGCC itself, that Merck has been a member of Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and I'm just curious to know what do you think businesses actually gain, or what's the value addition to being a part of a chamber or associations like these?
Sure. No, so of course Merck is a member of the Indo-German Chamber, but I also have the privilege to be on the board of the Indo-German Chamber. So to me, actually, the IGCC is not just a business network. It is actually a bridge between two very strong innovation-driven, progressive economies, right? So both Germany as well as India, very strong from even the values perspective in their own way. So I think it's a very important business association that builds the bridge, right? And of course, I mean, as a company, Merck, we have been operating in India for close to 60 years now. We are in our 58th year of incorporation here in the country, but we are a German company, at our core. So we are Indian, we are very well entrenched here, but we are also German, and that is a part of our value system. So IGCC to me is the bridge that brings the two economies together. At a company level, it is also my partner, or let's say support in topics which are relevant to both from a German perspective but as an Indian company operating here. So I count on IGCC extensively, together of course with the council offices, on key topics that we need to continue to drive advocacy on, etc. Right? And it has actually enabled me in the last couple of years to of course bring a lot of topics to the fore, but also create this very strong network of peer German companies operating here, So, and we recognize that we have similar advocacy topics many a times, and collectively we are able to put a stronger voice ahead. So there is that identity perspective, there is that connection, the bridge, and the advocacy support that I see the chamber providing us, which I find extremely valuable, and we have harnessed it many times.
That's wonderful. And that brings me to my last question, but I'm sure it's the most important one, is what is your vision for women in leadership in the coming years, say coming 10 years? What's your vision for women in leadership in India, most personally?
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and I think I maybe alluded to this a little bit like when I was talking before, right? So, it is not very normal to have I mean, of course, there has been progress, but we still see that there is significant gap in terms of women in leadership here in the country. So, my dream would be that, of course, that in 10 years down the line, this ratio is in a progressive manner. So, we are able to bridge the gap between the number of women that we see today in the boardrooms versus what we will see in the next 10 years. And then, of course, together, people like us who are in a position to influence influence, we are also nurturing the next generation of leaders, so that it becomes almost like a collective movement. So to summarize, my vision will be more women in leadership roles for sure, more diverse workforces, so that we are able to enrich the voice there, and we are creating the next generation of women leaders who are then, it becomes like a part of the system, not an exception but like the norm.
Yeah.
That there is like a whole host of women leaders, who are in your succession pipelines today. Sometimes you have to think and find who could be that person, and you struggle to identify because the pool itself is so low. So there is like the pool widens tomorrow, so that, and I think from an India perspective, we really want to, the Prime Minister has shared his vision for Viksit Bharat by 2047. A very, very important element of that is going to be being able to use the full workforce. That is our strength today, right? The demographic dividend that we have. The demographic dividend will never be able to make its full voice, at the table if you don't have all the women available in the workforce. So that would be the final piece. But 100% you have, I hope 10 years down the line, if you're doing this interview or somebody in your team is doing this interview, you have more women you are interviewing than men.
Absolutely. I was about to say that 10 years down the line, probably a question to someone asking how does it feel to be the first MD of the
It's not a question.
It's not a question anymore.
Very well said. Yeah, that's a good end to this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure just like me, anybody who is listening to this is going to be so encouraged by this conversation, and it was so it's not just encouraging, it's inspiring, it's so much to learn.
I'm humbled.
I cannot thank you enough for this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, Drishti. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you so much.